Hi everyone, welcome to the first ever Goblin Town Hall. I'm your host Ryan Lyon. I'm joined today by Hisoka and Jimmy from GT Capital. We've been asked by Terra TV to throw together a sort of casual GT podcast where we talk through things that we're interested in, some of the GT investments that we've made, and just some general Terra discussion. So Jimmy, Hisoka, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Hey guys, Hisoka here. You may know me from random Telegram chats or Twitter. It's a good day to be a lunatic. We're like $10 off from Luna's all-time high, which I don't know how many of us could have predicted that happening if you asked us about 2 months ago, but it's happening, and it's a good day to be a lunatic.
Yo, hey everyone, it's Jimmy. You guys probably know me by Lee Jimmy on Twitter, doing a bunch of memes and shit posts, and but yeah, like what Hisoka said, it's crazy that we're doing like these run-ups in December and now March. I mean, man, it's been a crazy ride. But
Jimmy, I know you've been under the weather with COVID recently. How's the recovery going?
Yeah, I'm almost there. I'm probably at like 98% these last couple of days, and like this past week, actually, I just feel like I've been in like the hyperbolic time chamber or whatever, just like staying inside for the whole week, and like the days go by, and just like in and out of naps and trying to work at the same time. But yeah, I'm almost there.
And you're planning. I understand you're planning on hitting the slopes of Colorado this weekend. So if anyone's in Colorado, please try and avoid Jimmy because he's trying to do some sort of super spreader event. And Hisoka, you've had some pretty big news recently. Huge. I think this is the first time we've kind of spoken face to profile picture since the birth of your son. So congratulations.
Yeah,
how's that
thanks,
going?
man. It's awesome. Baby boy, feels amazing. I named him Luno, so he is very much imagine.
Nice.
That'd be crazy. It's been a whirlwind, man. I'm day he was born, I think changed a lot of things, changed the way you see things, perspective, total 180. I mean, you had a kid very recently too.
Yeah, I'm 6 months. It was 6 months yesterday, actually. Yeah, it's been a bit of a shock to the system, but it's definitely life-changing and amazing and all kinds of different emotions. So
yeah,
and obviously my daughter is called Luna. So yeah. So like in terms of like what is GT Capital? So I think like a lot of people probably watching this may already know us, or maybe as individuals, and maybe aware of GT. There's also probably like, especially given the price action that we're talking about, there's probably a lot of new people that are entering the ecosystem for the first time. So like Hisoka, I don't know if you want to maybe fill the audience in with a quick what is GT Capital and how did we come together?
Yeah, I'm looking at the date. It says it's March 1st, whatever it is. I'm just thinking back to about a year ago, and I would be in the Terra like lunatics chats and stuff, and most of the topics were around when marketing. Like whoever discovered Luna at that time, they looked into the tokenomics, and it was just like it made so much sense. But then we looked at like what was getting shilled and what was getting pumped, and even though Luna had a huge run, it was like around this time when it was like really stable for a couple months in like the $16-17 range, and everyone was just like how do we do marketing on this thing? And no one really asked that question anymore. Now it's like Luna is one of the top 5 crypto projects in the world, most mentioned, all the influencers talk about it, everyone on YouTube talks about it. The price charts are just out of control. Back a year ago, there were some people out there who were like in the Telegram chats and like trying to start YouTube channels or like trying to become more active on Twitter to drive awareness. And I think GT kind of started like during that time. when there was that big crash and everyone was kind of licking their wounds, and like Luna was chilling at like $5, and I think the Pylon IDO launched, which was maybe like one of the first or second project, or after
Anchor and Mirror, right?
Anchor and Mirror. Yeah, it was like that, and it performed really well, and people actually had a glimmer of hope. And then we branched off into this Telegram group. There were a handful of members, and I started inviting a few more, and somehow from that time onward, we found this way to try to help answer the question of when marketing by actually like putting together some community talks, like doing some YouTube videos, putting together some Twitter threads. And although everyone was kind of working independently, we felt like a group. And then at some point we thought of giving this group a name. And the name, thought about a bunch of different things, but Goblin Town was one that stuck out to us, and we thought that sounded kind of silly, so we named it GT Capital. And from there we tried to take that name, and past few months, a lot of members have been heads down, just like we invest in projects, we help out those projects. We do that both like through different marketing avenues, but we also do very internally. We help with tokenomics. We try to help people with partnerships, this kind of thing. And now that we've kind of gotten some traction in certain places, like with our validator, we're trying to up that ante and see what things are looking like.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add, like, it's kind of weird that to think about it now, like it's almost been like, I don't know, what, 8, 9, 10 months have gone by now, and like the crazy thing is, like, I just feel like it happened all organically, right? It's like at one point, I can't even remember like the time where I was a lunatic and then I wasn't. It was just like, all right, oh, I heard about Luna. Oh, I heard about like this UST thing. And I remember seeing it going off peg. And then I remember a FUD about it. And then, you know, before I was full-time crypto, I was doing real estate stuff and I was doing some other things. And I think like over time, the amount of crypto content that I consumed just started to become more and more and more. And then before I knew it, it was just like wake up Telegram or wake up Twitter or wake up Discord. And then it's just like that all the way through until you go to sleep. And in between, you take breaks to do like real life stuff, right? And then, in our search for like alpha and our search on ways to like make it in the crypto world, we happen to find each other's in like these smaller Telegram groups, and we bounce ideas off of each other. We joke, we have fun, and it's just like we support each other in the little things that we were trying to do, right? And then at one point when we started to put a name around it, and focus more of our efforts, I think that's when like things started to become a bit more real and things got a bit more serious, when teams and projects started to approach us and asking us like, 3-4 months ago, like, who the hell am I? And then now all of a sudden, like, we actually have protocols and founders coming to us and asking us for our point of view. So I thought that was like also really surreal, but at the same time happened like super organically, right? And like if like people are looking on the outside and wondering like, what the hell do we do like day to day? Really, is just like wake up and open Telegram or open Twitter and just like do whatever feels right, share whatever feels right, and just connect the right people with the right ideas, and the rest of it just kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying about the organic nature of how we came together. Hisoka did an amazing job of just pulling in just random interesting people into this group, and I feel like it's you say, like, you think about it, really like 9-10 months is nothing, but it really feels like I've kind of known you guys for years now. I guess it's been a really intense period. I mean, I remember Jimmy. I think Hisoka picked Jimmy up out of what is it? The Alta the kind of
Salty, yeah.
rebasing stable coin that the Lotta team put together, and you came in and you had like 50 followers on Twitter or something. I'm like, who the hell is this random guy that's come out of nowhere? And then the next thing, a few months down the line, there you are, like putting Terra governance proposals together for, large amounts of UST and creating UST cross-chain liquidity. Like the journey's been pretty insane from where we were to where we are today.
Yeah, and like I think a lot of times we don't look backwards because we're forward looking and looking at all the possibilities and all the things that are left to do. I mean, there's just so much left to do for UST and for Luna, and like we're top 7 right now. Like, I can't even fathom when we're actually like completed all the things that we want to do with UST. So, yeah, it's just been a crazy journey for sure so far.
Yeah, and I just wanted to use this opportunity to call out a few things that that we've managed to achieve so far at GT. As you say, Jimmy, kind of always looking forward, what's the next thing that we can do? What's the next thing that we can do? We've got this kind of grand vision of how we can build this out into a bigger community thing. But I think it's also important to reflect on, some of the things that we've done already. So just a quick list of things that we've done. So we, not necessarily in chronological order, but we've launched the GT validator. I think we launched at probably the perfect time because I think we very luckily managed to get into the active set within around about 24 hours of launching back in November time. And we've seen some really big community players in the Terra space that have also launched validators recently, like CoinHall and Danku. We kind of took as a bit of a mission for those guys to get into the active set. So really kind of proud of what we've done there. And I think the more community validators that we have supporting the Terra network is really important. We've obviously we're supporting and we've invested in a number of Terra projects. I'm not going to sit and list all those. You can go and check those out on the GT Capital website. We've taken responsibility for the Lunatics chat, the biggest Terra Telegram group, and we all kind of chip in and help administrate that. I think you probably find Hisoka hanging in there probably more than the rest of us. We've launched the first Terra specific job board called Hypernova Work. We've got a number of Terra projects that are advertising for various roles on there. And then we started utilizing some of the funds that we're getting from the validator and reinvesting those, into not investing, but supporting Terra projects that we think have got really good value. So our first initiative was we're now funding 50% of extraterrestrial finders monthly server costs, and really proud to be doing that because they're bringing such an amazing service to the Terra community and have been for several months now. I think they were the first place that you could actually go and grab Terra prices for Terra altcoins before CoinHall came along. And then most recently we've started sponsoring the Spanish language version of Terra Crumbs. I think is it Terra Nuestra, and again they're bringing a really valuable service to the ecosystem in terms of doing non-English language learning for the Spanish speaking community. Don't know if you guys want to pitch in on any of those things or if there's anything that I've missed off.
Yeah, I want to comment that ever since I joined the Prism team I now feel the pain of admins and, you know, founding teams when you have like, I don't even know how they find our projects, right? They just like these marketers or like these sales folks or like, I don't know what they call themselves, but they essentially would just spam the crap out of admins to try to sell their marketing services, right? Or like list your project and like it's just like a plague of them. And I see that, and anytime I get that, I just delete all of their messages, right? Like don't even respond to them. And then on the other side, I see like all the things the community needs that we just so desperately want someone to step up and fill the need. And with like our proceeds from the GT, you know, validator and our treasury, like we are happy to fund stuff and like pay people to do cool things to support the community. Where, like, I remember, I think it was Joseph, where he used to go by Casa Intern, was doing like these weekly roundups, right? It's only been like probably less than 2 months then he started doing those, but he was just showing up every week doing them and like creating these YouTube videos, these Twitter thread roundups, just like for the week and just quickly giving you the updates of what's going on in the Terra ecosystem and like one concise consumable thing that you can read like every Friday. And I know like we were rushing in trying to like pick him up or like fund him or like just do anything to get this guy to continue doing what he was doing. Um, and of course, like the terabytes guys were too quick, and they picked up Joseph before we could, you know, put anything together that was meaningful for him. Um, but yeah, I think like that is just like such an interesting like tidbit that I've kind of noticed from where we are. Just like people trying to sell things, like the ecosystem needing stuff, and then if you're anyone who has any like interest or spark to go after it, man, you'll get picked up really quickly, right? Um, yeah, and I think like if you're someone like that and you have like a vision and you just like feel like you need funding, man, hit us up. Like find us in the Lunatics Telegram channel and like just do the thing, and we'll be here to support you if you want to support the Terra ecosystem.
Yeah, just to double click on that, I think I put out like some kind of call out via Twitter just to like get some interest for people who are interested in joining GT. And I did get a lot of messages, but I got a lot of messages about like, how can I help? And, you know, as a community kind of pool, there's so many different ways you can help, but there's no specific way that I know that you can help. So what I'm really looking for are people who are like out there already doing stuff, but they want to do that maybe while getting some funding, maybe GT supports, maybe you do that as a part of GT. But like the best way to get noticed in that way, I think, is to just like start doing that thing that you want to do. And then there's Orbital Command, there's GT Capital, there's Terabytes, there's people who now have funding, and you know they're looking to expand what they do to the community. So if they get a sense of like, okay, you're doing this thing, we see the kind of content you're creating, we see your threads, we see your videos, it's a much better audition than like a blind DM with just like a really blank Twitter profile. So for people who are looking to get more active in the community, I'd say, you know, have like a start something, have something to share. Makes it much easier to get that next step.
Be entrepreneurial, right? I think you really see like two different types of people, maybe in crypto in general. So the people who just dive headfirst in, they put in the time to do the research, they'll go onto YouTube, they'll watch every video that they can, they'll read every white paper that they can, they'll start making threads, they'll start making content. And then you get the other side of that where it's like people who just come and ask the most basic questions because they don't want to go and do the research. So we're definitely looking for people in that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. And then see, while we've been chatting, Terra OG, Nick, has joined us. Nick, I don't know if you've been listening to what we've said so far. Maybe if you want to do like a quick intro to yourself and maybe pitch in on anything that you think we've missed.
Or maybe his audio is not working and it is what it is.
Oh, we were on such a great flow there as well. Okay, cool. So like I think we covered the GT stuff. I don't know if we probably just want to spend like, people are probably fed up of hearing like Terra news bites, but we're gonna do it anyway because we don't have any other content planned. So like I think obviously like the hot topic of the week has probably been the price action, right? Like Luna doing what it does best, going completely against the market and just having a run against, whilst all the other markets going in the other direction, Luna's doing its thing. I kind of called this out like about a week ago now, and I said I've just got that feeling that Luna's about to do that thing that it does, and then it went and did it. What are your guys' thoughts? Where is this coming from? Why does Luna go the opposite direction to everything else sometimes?
Oh man, I've been trolling on Twitter so much lately. I just like every time someone makes like a cocky I sold Luna at X price and like, now I did X thing, like taking profits and all that is fine. But like a lot of times it's like little brag post and then it becomes hilarious. What's up, Nick?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
We've got you, Nick, finally. Let's
Dude,
go.
I have been struggling.
Yeah, man. Yeah, good. Yeah, jump in. We're just talking about Luna price action and how
All right, I'm
crazy
crazy
things have
so
been.
Please go ahead, Isoka.
Yeah, no worries. Like what do I think is driving this price action? I mean, you look at the burn every day is 1 million tokens plus. You look at UST demand. UST demand is like the peg is over $1. It's been over $1 for like every time I check it, it's over $1. You look at like the market cap chart like of UST, it's always going up. You look at this like, I mean, we were kind of in a bearish market and then Bitcoin's doing this thing, but if you look at Anchor Protocol, you see like I think we were at 10 billion in Anchor earn at some point. What are we at now? We're at like 13 billion, even more than that.
I think we've just about popped 13 billion. Yeah.
It just feels like he is just like in his prime. Like he's doing the Michael Jordan thing of crypto. And like if you bet against Michael Jordan, you're probably gonna have a bad time. And like if you try to time the market and you try to like double your bag of Luna, you're probably gonna have a bad time. I think for a lot of lunatics, it's like they've learned to just like they have this apex asset in Doe, like, and he's working really hard to pump your bags, and like just like get out of his way, like stop trying to doubt him. I'm fully on board the Do Kwon train at this point. I'm just enjoying the ride.
Well said, sir. Yeah, like I think for me, like I have this bag that I just never touch, right? And I'm just always doing some kind of farming with it, and just reinvesting and going back into Luna. So when we're on these runs, it's just like absolute euphoria. It's like, oh God, yes. And then, but when we do have like our corrections, I'm just like numb to it. It's like it doesn't even faze me at this point. Like we've done this so many times over like the last year. I'm just totally numb to it. But when it goes on its run, it's just like absolute euphoria.
Yeah, man. I was just, I was saying, I think I was talking to Seppi on Spaces yesterday. I was saying it's just so crazy how quick sentiment turns in crypto markets. Like Christmas time, hitting $100 was just absolutely insane. Euphoria everywhere. Then all of a sudden, like less than a month later, we have like max UST FUD, all the .eths, all the crypto press are saying how there's going to be this bank run on UST, Anchor Protocol is going to fall apart, and then again, less than a month later again, Anchor reserves have been fully topped up. $1 billion of Bitcoins being acquired by Terra to help protect the peg and give this release valve in volatile market conditions. Then all of a sudden, we're back on, UST demand just going crazy. Anchor, I think last time I looked, it was over 8 billion in earn. Like it is, and then we're on this price run where we're back to heading back to those euphoric levels again, as you say, Jimmy. It's just crazy how this market plays out and how the sentiment plays out.
Yeah, and I just for your everyday kind of person, when you talk about like there's UST demand, like right now, maybe the most common thing for someone to do when they first get their hands on some UST is just like deposit into Anchor, right, for the 20% yield. But then like for someone like me who's trying to go the other way, like I just had to pay for our validator fees for the month, right? And I off ramped some UST on Coinbase, and I got like a little bit extra just because there was just so much demand on Coinbase. I think it's trading for like 1.005 or something like that on Coinbase, right? So I got like 0.5% more for off like turning UST into USD on Coinbase.
Someone tell Freddie Reynolds that USD's lost peg.
I imagine like there's like huge orders for buys of UST at like 1.004, right? So you could make, I mean, if you wanted to arbitrage and like, go to Coinbase, you could make like a decent amount of money just like trying to protect our peg or whatever. But that was like the first time I kind of like did that for through an exchange, and I was able to just make a little bit extra. And I can get why like Luna is burning all the time, because there's just like huge orders for like 0.5% above $1 on Coinbase right now.
Do you guys think that this Bitcoin, this acquiring of $1 billion of Bitcoin, not only is it kind of adding stability to the UST peg, but do you think it's potentially actually won over a bunch of Bitcoin maxis who are now kind of entering the Terra ecosystem?
Oh, those are a stubborn bunch. That one's hard to say. But what I would say is, if there's people that doubted like the viability of putting their assets into an algo stablecoin, I think having $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, and that number is going to grow, I think having that as a backstop is going to unlock a huge amount of new demand for UST. It's like all these institutions, everyone that wants these like high interest rates. I mean, they're scared of algo stablecoins because it's not really backed by anything but the mechanism. But now it's like it's got a bit of Frax in it now. It does have some kind of backing. We don't know exactly how that's all going to work, but like just knowing that, I mean, this is decentralized money and Bitcoin is basically decentralized money. Like to have those two go hand in hand is very, very powerful narrative and selling point.
Yeah, I imagine we're going to have some kind of like, I don't know, some protocol springs up that allows you to essentially, like maybe they'll have like some oracles for the Bitcoin price that allows you to trade against like some LFG app to essentially burn or mint, $1 worth of Bitcoin for 1 UST and vice versa, similar to like what we can do with Luna. Like, I think that would be pretty cool. And like, if there's a subset of people who don't believe in Luna, like they'll be happy to, take that profit using Bitcoin instead, I'm sure.
I'm just going to poke you here, Jimmy, to see if you've got any inside info from the scheming that you do. I saw another 6.3 million from the LFG fund put into vesting the other day. Do you know anything about that? Is that part of the original BTC acquisition, or do you think that might be something else? Maybe more Bitcoin, maybe a different currency to go into that reserve asset fund?
I have no idea. The first I saw of it was like, I think it was Harry who posted that on Twitter. And I kind of did like my whole MicroStrategy, MicroSailor, like kind of post, like just kind of shit posting, not really thinking that there was going to be like potentially future buys. But I think one of the articles that came out talked about how, oh, this is just like the beginning, right? Like they're going to be looking to bolster the reserves. And I think it was like Jose who, from Delphi asked me, it's like, please make this a thing. Please make this a thing where I just like, do the MicroStrategy type posts on Twitter, but for LFG Bitcoin purchases.
Yeah, I loved that. And I loved how many people just got so confused. Like 69,420 Bitcoin acquired at like 14,000 something dollars. Everyone's like, how did they buy it at that price? They must have been buying ages ago. Like, no. Sometimes your shit post just you're in the Susie category of like sometimes the shit posts are just too real and they just confuse the masses.
Yeah.
Nick, any thoughts on the price run up or any of the LFG activities? I'm going to take that as a no. It's like quite late wherever Nick is, so
we're gonna have to edit Nick out completely.
Did I just mention my name?
We woke him up.
Nick, this is live television, friend.
Go back to sleep, Nick. No worries. Go back to shouting at people on Telegram.
I'm going to be just a listener.
Okay, cool. No worries.
Three of you guys are too epics. I really don't wish to steal your spotlights.
Beautiful. You can just stay there looking beautiful with your GT Capital profile picture. I'm jealous. I'm still waiting for mine. Nick, Jimmy's got his there. Hisoka's scared to use his because he scares children with his creepy Hisoka that he's had made for him. So he's gone back to normal Hisoka.
Yeah, it's hard to beat the original.
Exactly. A few other things that maybe we want to talk about. I know sort of last couple of weeks we've seen the Edge Protocol launch. Those guys have somehow like managed to front run Mars when it comes to sort of collateralized lending. Jimmy, do you want to like talk us through like what, like maybe just like a quick overview of like what is Edge Protocol and how the launch has been going?
Yeah, for sure. So Edge Protocol is like a money market, and they've launched with their Genesis pool. So currently there's only one pool on there right now where you can trade a bunch of assets where you can essentially just supply assets. You can also borrow assets and do whatever you wish with them. I guess we're most familiar with Anchor, but the thing with Anchor is that you can only supply collateral in the form of proof of stake or essentially income producing assets, right? Like B Luna and B ETH. But for Edge, you can supply any number of assets, income producing or not, right? So I think they've got UST, AUST, Anchor, Mirror, Luna X, Luna. I think that might be it. Maybe I'm missing one or two. But yeah, they've launched with quite a bit of a bang. I think they started with 10 million. They quickly built that up, opened up to 20 million, and finally raised the cap to about 70 million or so. And I think they're sitting right around between like 20 to 30 million in TVL on their protocol right now. I think this one's really interesting. So it brings over some of the ideas from Rari Fuse, where you can essentially have, protocols or key opinion leaders essentially create their own money market for, whatever specific assets they want to support. I think this will be really interesting for protocols to essentially drive revenue or drive additional like interest and utility for governance tokens. Like, so say for, I guess, I don't know if this is alpha, but I guess like for Prism, we're looking at Edge as a potential opportunity to give some of the Prism assets some more utility, right? So like our CP and Y Luna, folks can use them as collateral to essentially borrow and do some other degen stuff with it. Say for like P Luna, obviously it needs quite a bit of love, since Y Luna has like all the utility, and we have the Prism farm coming up that I'm sure we'll talk about a bit later. But yeah, like giving P Luna some ability to generate income through supplying as collateral, letting people borrow it to do whatever they want. And then of course, like if we have C Luna and Y Luna off the protocol, it generates more fees for X Prism holders, right? So that's like one way we could generate additional revenue, give additional utility to Prism assets. But you know, any number of like protocols, even like GT, we could have our own like money market. We can spring one up, and we can have like, you know, the various governance tokens that we've invested in that have started to vest, and we could dump them in there and allow people to borrow off of, right? Yeah, I think it's just like a super interesting way to create like very specialized long tail money markets that might not exist and might not be supported for like Anchor or for Mars.
So if we were to do something like that for GT, like what are the like entry criteria, and I guess what risk would you be taking on by running, you know, a money market on Edge?
Yeah, I think the Oracle risk is probably the biggest one. There's that. There's also, of course, like additional smart contract risks, right, from the Edge team, who they've been audited by, if they've been making changes, that kind of stuff. And just to detail the Oracle side a bit more, like if the way that they're getting these prices, I think like for now, their Oracle is centralized, right? So the Edge team is essentially running oracles to check the price of these assets on certain AMMs, say like Astroport or Terra Swap or something like that. With looming flash loans being possible through White Whale or through various other platforms, you're opening yourself up to economic exploits where someone can artificially inflate an asset on Edge that they're supplying. Say like, I don't know, say for some reason the Oracle for the Anchor token is pointing at like, say like Loop Finance, right? So Loop is, I think, the third largest DEX on Terra. So their pools for, say, Anchor UST might be really thin relative to Astroport. So someone could dump a whole bunch of UST into that pool, or pull out a whole bunch of so they would like pull out a bunch of like Anchor tokens from that pool to artificially inflate the Anchor price in that pool. So now the Edge protocol thinks that, oh, Anchor is worth so much more than it really is, and it allows them to borrow a whole bunch of other assets, and essentially maybe like even deplete certain pools on Edge, on the Edge money market. And then when the Oracle gets fixed, then they're obviously underwater by quite a bit, right? But they already have done their thing and they've made their money, and they're like gone. They don't care if they get liquidated. So Oracle risk is like probably the biggest consideration. Oracle risk and just like where are you getting the liquidity for these prices is the most important tidbit, I think.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to looking at that in more depth from a GT perspective, but also, you know, as you mentioned, from a Prism perspective, from a protocol-owned money market, we can bring some more utility to our Alphabet assets. I'm going to flip over here to one of the investments that GT made, which is Atlo Protocol, which is a new decentralized launchpad on Terra. Probably a lot of people thinking, why? Oh, we've just lost Jimmy halfway through that as well. Probably a lot of people thinking, well, we've already got Pylon, we've already got Star Terra. Why do we need more launch pads? I think it's been pretty interesting because they've already got quite a good pipeline in terms of the projects that are launching there. Fan Fury, Minerva. I think we've seen Mint DAO launch there already. Hisoka, what are you thinking about Atlo, how it's going so far, and some of the projects that are launching on there coming up?
I think it's fair to question why Terra needs another launch pad in the first place when they did have Pylon, when they do have Star Terra. But you also kind of have to look at the trends of how all Terra alts have been over the past 6 months to a year, where there was, when TeFi Autumn was supposed to be a thing, and it came and it kind of arrived with a dud, but then things actually did start launching, and a lot of the charts have just been really underwhelming. And now whenever there's like a new launch, it's like a lot of people are looking to get a 2x in the first 6 hours, and then the token becomes radioactive and they're not trying to touch it again. So we have these projects on Terra who are launching, and they don't want to launch like that. So a lot of them, they started doing their own launches, right? Like Prism did the Forge thing, Whale did their own LBP, Angel did their own LBP. Everyone's just in their own kind of custom, unique things. And what Atlo provides is they're willing to create that custom, unique infrastructure for projects to launch on. So I think with them being willing to put their own time, dollars, manpower into creating these custom launch projects for platforms for other projects, that's interesting. The other thing that's interesting though is like with Terra doing so well and like Luna sucking up so much of the liquidity on the Terra ecosystem, like the money's abundant, but most of the money is to accumulating more Luna. So you buy an alt, it goes up, you dump it to buy more Luna. But there are also good players in the space, or like good community members who maybe are not interested in just immediately dumping new projects. Maybe they want to stake it. Maybe they want to farm it. Maybe they want to hold on to it. How do you differentiate between that money and money that just wants to dump? Well, that's potentially where something like an Atlo score might be interesting. And every wallet that holds Atlo gets an Atlo score. And when you participate in Atlo governance, when you do certain activities within Atlo, that score either goes up or it goes down. And it's still in its infancy. I mean, what is it? It's just a few weeks old. But like I can see this, like their willingness to do a bunch of custom infrastructure, plus like their ability to actually identify like diamond hand, quote unquote, kind of money versus money that'll just dump, and like routing those allocations to the right spot. I think that's going to become a really attractive selling point for projects who have just been like opting to do their own thing. I think they may take Atlo's community, their infrastructure, and actually turn Atlo into a launch pad that's like, it's got good deal flow and it's got really good money coming in as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think, they seem, at least in the short term, like really well positioned to pick up that sort of like mid to small size, relative to, let's say, an Anchor or a Mirror or a Pylon, a sort of like mid to small size project who's looking to sort of grow a community of users on their platform, rather than, users who are maybe coming along for, as you say, the kind of pump and dump type in and out strategy that you see with a lot of launchpads, across all of crypto. I think it's been really interesting journey on Terra because, if you think back to, maybe not much longer than 6 months ago, around the time that, Pylon launched, and there was so much hunger for anything that was going to launch on Terra. There was so much borrowing power in in Anchor, that, you know, anything that launched just skyrocketed off the launch. I mean, we were talking earlier about how we picked up Jimmy during that Alte sale. You know, just a tiny little project like that, though I think there's, you know, millions of dollars worth of trading going on in those early days, and I think it's really changed. Like the money to invest is spread a lot more thin, so you're not seeing these like huge like pumps and then you know, sort of staggered down price action that we used to see. So I think it's really important that that these projects are able to you sort of like gain some attention and build a community. And as you say, like that Atlo score where your allocation is weighted based on, you know, how you've behaved with different tokens that have launched on that platform is going to be really valuable going forward if they can pull it off. Like
the community is kind of wised up to a lot of the popular tricks that people use for launches. Like you have this gigantic token supply and you launch with like 0.0001% of that supply. And then all of a sudden the price skyrockets and then everyone gets their airdrops. And then like the people who are really quick can dump. Investors with like a 10% TGE can dump. And like retail, I think just like most people in crypto, but you know, Terra is even newer. So a lot of people in Terra just didn't kind of understand how that game worked. So they would see something launch and maybe it retraces a little bit and they jump in and then all of a sudden there's like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of like money being dumped onto retail. This happened a few times and now like the sentiment for new launches is really, really guarded. And I don't blame investors for thinking that way. But I do applaud projects who are like starting to think outside the box and like they don't do that anymore. Star Terra launched like something that gets rid of bots recently, like which is pretty innovative. So, you know, they're trying to do new stuff. Like Prism, you know, there's a lot of FUD about the Prism launch, but like, you know, the price, I think it started at 33 cents and like that current price is above that launch price, which is not something you used to see really. So everyone's kind of taken their own different methods to try to fix this problem of number go down with Terra alts. And I'm just like, I'm hoping people are giving these projects a chance when they deserve it.
Yeah, I think like when you do see numbers go up for some of our alts, it's like, oh man, it's so surprising. Like I think today, like the last like 24 hours have been like insane for like say Kujira in particular, right? They've done some massive reworks to their tokenomics. And I think today was the first day you could get, I think, staked Kuji or like bond your Kuji for staked Kuji to get a portion of like the Apex assets that they liquidate or like people will use through their Beluga app. And then just had like a run up for like 100%. Like I don't remember the last time we saw 100% run on a Terra alt in like, you know, right after months after their launch, right? Like that was insane to see kind of in the last day or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just conscious of time. So I'm just going to give a quick shout out to Fan Fury, which are coming up as a launch on Atlo, which was the first GT capital investment. You know, it was at the time amazing that, you know, a founder was putting their trust in GT as an investor. They're a fantasy sports protocol that you know, they've really taken a lot of our advice in terms of like their marketing strategy and actually being outwardly focused rather than inwardly focused to Terra. And I think we're going to see some pretty good innovation coming from them, from an on-off ramp and like bringing crypto people into a crypto app and kind of disguising it so that they think that they're just, you know, taking part in a normal fantasy sports app. And also a shout out to Minerva, who are doing something really kind of innovative in the NFT space through like linking their NFTs to real world assets in terms of sourcing wine from vineyards. The founder of Minerva, James, was one of the first probably 5 people who joined UK Lunatics when I launched it back last summer. And I was in a group where he was like just spitballing ideas on how to create real world use cases for NFTs. And like I honestly like kind of feel like a proud dad, like seeing him like bringing that product from like just spitballing ideas around to now having a big team around them, launching the Minerva product and the DAO that they've built. And I wish them a lot of success with their launch as well. I think with the time we've got left, Jimmy, I think it'd be remiss if we didn't at least have a quick discussion around Prism. Not only have we kind of grown to be friends through GT, but we're now both colleagues at Prism. Myself in a kind of operations function, and yourself in imagining, building, growing capacity. Perhaps you could just give a quick heads up to the audience in terms of like what's coming from a Prism perspective.
Yeah, for sure. So this week we're going to be, like in the next day or so, we're going to be doing our final testnet for the Prism farm. So you can expect to see that later on this week. So I think it was last week.
I think actually by the time this airs, I'm really hoping that Prism Farm might be live.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like this show might come out on Monday of the following week. Yeah, so hopefully we have our Prism Farm live already. Those of us who have been pledging our X Prism, who have been earning amps for the last week and a half or so, we would have a pretty big advantage, I think, in the boosted amounts and the boosted APRs that you might receive. So yeah, like based on the numbers and some of the calculators that I've kind of put out there, I'm anticipating like this will be the best yields you will get on single-sided Luna / Y Luna for the next weeks or months to come.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of my role is probably going to be trying to explain Prism in a retail-friendly fashion. And taking all the imagining that you're doing and the big braining that comes from Hyperion and trying to translate that into retail. I think it's interesting because Prism is really a lot of standard DeFi functions. It's staking, it's LPing, it's trading. Like I don't think there's any particular difficult functions in there. I think just people trying to get their head around this kind of new asset classes that we've created in the kind of yield and principal tokens, and how they can be utilized now, how they can be utilized in the future. And I'm hoping that when Prism Farm goes live, I've often said to people, you can kind of think of Prism at the very basic level as like a liquid staking platform, and the Prism Farm is going to, as you say, from all the calculations that we've been doing, it's going to be by far the highest APR yield that you can get on, lossless Luna staking. So we're going to be taking your yield from your Y Luna and trading that and essentially swapping that. Well, instead of the yield from Luna, you'll be getting Prism tokens. We've got 13% of the supply that are going to be sort of like slowly dripped and vested through the next 12 months. And hopefully when people like kind of see that in action, it'll make a lot of sense. And then they're going to have to try and get their head around X Prism and amps. Hisoka, what's your view been, from the outside in terms of like the Prism launch and how the how the lunatics are reacting to it?
I was one of the pretty vocal bulls about the whole thing, and
yeah, you're getting paid, right? That's what Nacho Don said.
Yeah, God forbid I'm just excited about a project. But one thing, I mean, there were like when Prism actually launched, and there were a lot of things leading up to it that people weren't so sure about. And then when it actually launched and you could see like the dashboard with the Y Luna and P Luna and all this stuff, I know like there was a big debate about like what's going to be more popular, the P Luna and the Y Luna. That created some really interesting pieces of content. And then I was in this other chat room and this guy was like, the 10 minutes after Prism launched, he was like, well, this is a generational, once in a lifetime opportunity. I need like as much money as possible. And I'm like, I didn't know what he was talking about. And he wouldn't tell me because he didn't want me to front run him. And then afterwards, he told me, he was like, he thought that it was so obvious that Y Luna was going to be the more like, in demand one. And he thought the Y Luna was going to go much, much higher. And at the time it was like 50-50. And now the Y Luna is kind of 3x and the P Luna has lagged big time. So his generational opportunity was like to accumulate as much of that Y Luna as possible before people realized. It unlocks this whole like new set of strategies that just weren't there before. And with Prism being kind of the center point to it all, I think it's an interesting asset that we haven't really seen on Terra before. You do need it to actually LP with some of these pairs. And it's also interesting because, I mean, there really isn't going to be a lot of inflation from like team, or I don't mean there are no VCs, but like for the next 5.5 months, it's going to be kind of clean sailing for a lot of farmers, where if they're farming, it's they're getting inflation that's happening. There's no one else coming that's going to dump on them. So the price action I'll be looking out for Prism. I'll be farming for sure. I'll be using the AMP vaults for sure. But I've been a bull all along, and I even after 6 months, I mean, like the VCs that Prism does have, like the jump and the hashed, and I forget the other one, but I can't imagine these guys just like TFL, yeah.
You
TFL.
may have heard of them.
Like they're not just going to start vesting and dumping their like Prism tokens. Like these are like the top tier VCs. So it just seems like a really interesting project. I think it's still highly, highly underrated, and I don't know. I'm bullish on it.
I mean, I'm so delighted that the opportunity came up to work there. I mean, obviously I'm biased because I do work there, but even before that, I look at Prism. We've only just started, right? We're still kind of in soft launch phase. We've got so much more coming down the line. And I really do see it as like one of the infinity stones of Terra that I think really should be sat alongside, Anchor, Mirror, maybe Astroport once they get things together, and then maybe something like Mars as well. Really kind of like top tier project. And I really hope that we're able to deliver, and myself and Jimmy will be at the forefront of trying to make that happen. So yeah, good to hear your thoughts. Jimmy, anything to add?
Yeah, I think like just based on like our current numbers with where Prism is at and how much Luna we have staked in the regular Y Luna staking, like I'm thinking that the APRs can be as high as like 100%, like 40 to 50 is probably going to be normal for the first few weeks. I think you could run some numbers just based on your X Prism allocation and your amps, that it could be quite significant. And then once people realize that, what's going on, I think that we're going to see maybe run-ups to around up to say 10 million Luna in our vaults before the APRs come down to something reasonable. But at that point, the annual revenue coming to Prism from 10 million locked inside of our protocol is just going to be absolutely insane. So yeah, I'm really keen to see what happens in the next, like say, week or 2 weeks or so, and see how the market responds to what we put out there in the world.
Cool. Well, I think I can hear Jimmy in his car because Oh, Nick, hello. Is that it, Nick? Anything else to add other than just saying Jimmy?
He's just saying his name. That's all.
Yeah.
Well,
No, Jimmy,
I think he's dreaming.
and API. I am speaking. An APR of at least 40% should be the highest APR one can get from staking Luna, right?
you can't even get close
Yeah.
to that. I mean, like if you think about like where can you get Luna staking yield? Well, you get it from staking Luna, which is like what 10%. You can get it from B Luna Nexus or N Luna, which is like again, I think it was like as low as 6% today, but as high as 14% in the last few days with the anchor run up. You've got Stader, which is kind of again like just a little bit over the standard staking Luna staking yield. So I think it's going to be like 3-4 times what you can get
This
on
is
staking
native.
Luna anywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, this is like native. This is not pulling. You don't have any like impermanent loss or anything like that. It's just straight APRs on single-sided Luna.
And then the other good thing is you can also dip in and out whenever you want, right? There's no lockup in the Prism farm for your Y Luna. So even if Luna's having a catastrophic event in terms of price and you just need to get out of there for whatever reason, that option is going to be there to you as well with essentially no penalty other than the loss of opportunity from the period where you're not farming. I can assure you that both the P Luna DAO account and the amazing Prism Watcher account that have popped up over recent days and weeks are not affiliated to Prism. They're kind of saying some of the things that I would love to say that I can't say because I'm obviously part of the project. But I'm absolutely loving the kind of the ingenuity coming from the community already.
If someone just bought up all the P Luna in the world and just refused to sell it unless it was for like $1,000, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I throw the idea out there, that maybe when governance goes live, like a sort of coalition of P Luna bulls and X Prism diamond hands might want to like maybe put a governance proposal forward where we use part of the Prism treasury to buy up P Luna, which then essentially like stacks, it essentially locks Luna in staking in Prism forever, right? Until, unless there was maybe a governance proposal that said sell that P Luna, right?
But you can you can just sell your Y Luna to UST using the AMM, right?
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
Sell it to Luna, whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, it's not particularly efficient, but you can go straight out of the protocol Y Luna to UST.
Hey guys, I got to drop off, but this was really great fun, and I think we should definitely do this again.
Yeah, nice one, Jimmy. I was just about to wrap up, but Nick came in with the last minute question. He woke up and had some questions on Prism. Thanks for joining, man. I'll speak to you soon.
Yes. Later.
Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Cool. So yeah, with that in mind, I'm going to wrap things up here. There's probably a few things that we could have talked about that we didn't, like for example, the Mars launch. We've got a kinetic lock drop coming up soon, which maybe we can cover in another show. We've got the Alice Finance Alpha that's been going on. We got the Deviance alpha testing that's going on. Like, this community is going crazy. Like, I remember, 8-9 months ago, I could stay completely on top of everything that's going on in the ecosystem. Now it's just completely impossible, even if you were sat here 24 hours a day, to keep on top of all the information that's going on. So I think that's a really, really bullish sign for the ecosystem. We're going to probably run these things regularly to help, Terra TV get off the ground. So we'll probably be rotating members. We've got quite a strong Asian-based cohort in GT, so we'll probably be, like, you'll see some maybe next time those guys will be running it, and we'll just be kind of alternating it with different makeups from the GT group, and then maybe like start to bring in some of our community members and maybe maybe some of the projects that we've been working with as well. We'll just kind of keep working on this thing over time as we go, if it's wanted by the community. As ever, you know, if you do like the stuff that GT are doing, you can stick with our validator. We've got a really good uptime and a reasonable percentage, commission percentage as well. And as you heard, like we're putting some of that revenue back into community projects as well, with kind of no expectations from our side other than just we want to support growth on the Terra network. Hisoka, any final words?
That was fun, man. Hope to do a lot more of these with you.
Cool. Well, it's great to catch up. Nick, anything from you before we go?
No, it is so great to hear your voices again.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember the last time we had a call like this, but yeah, it is really good.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's been good to catch up. It's always great shooting the shit with you guys, and look forward to catching you on the next one.